Hey all you heroes and champions, crows, pirates, and inquisitors. Welcome to the Dragon Age Lorecast. I'm Shelby.
And I'm Austin.
And we are so excited to bring you this podcast. Every episode we'll be talking about a different topic in the Dragon Age universe. From the Maker to Lyrium to Aravels, we will cover it all. There will be spoilers. And always remember, swooping is bad.
Hello and welcome to the Dragon Age Lorecast, where we sit around and talk about all things Dragon Age and the lore of that world. I am one of your hosts, Austin, otherwise known as Teacup.
And I'm your other host, and I'm Shelby or She-Cup.
And today is our very, very special patron episode. So we have with us here our patrons. I will let them introduce themselves. We'll start with Wes.
Hello, I am the Wes Botron.
Hello, I'm Charlotte or Spiderweb on Discord.
All right, I'm back. It's good to be back.
And then last but not least, Lizzie.
Hey everybody, I am Lizzie or LVCC13, depends on where you're talking to me at.
All right, and we're here to talk about what origin, or you all created an origin for Dragon Age DreadWolf. Did I get that right? Let's see. Create your own origin for DAD. So who would like to go first?
Before we jump in, should I read some of the ones from other Dragon Age games that we've experienced?
Sure. Do we need a reminder?
Okay.
We need a reminder.
Well, I mean, I'm sure I don't need a reminder, but some people who are listening might appreciate it. So we have a human noble who has a family who suffered tragedy. We have experienced a mage who undergoes a life-changing test. We've experienced a Dalish elf getting sick after touching a mirror. We've experienced city elf experiences assault and then later gets revenge. Dwarven noble finds out family isn't who they thought they were. Dwarven commoner betrays gang. Human commoner escapes blight. And I didn't really include the origins from Inquisition because they're not really origins as much as they are backstories. But again, we have a human noble, a dwarven commoner, a Talvashoth Kunari, and a Dalish elf from Inquisition.
Is the human commoner escaping the blight? Is that Hawk?
Yes.
Okay. I was like,
there's not a human commoner.
yeah. Well, that was a scrapped origin. So I was just curious if you were including that.
Mm-hmm. No, I wasn't. That's a Hawk.
All right, yeah. So I think I saw Sykes' hand to go first.
Yeah. Okay. So I came up. I've got several, but I'll share the one I'm most proud of. It is the Agent of Fenharel Elf origin. You were recruited from a Dalish clan by either Fenharel or another agent. You are to lead an attack on Minrathos, but certain details are hidden from you. This attack goes badly when at a crucial moment your backup never arrives, and you are left as the only survivor. You swear vengeance against Fenharel organization for betraying you and your team and joining the overarching plot.
I really like that. That's really compelling.
Thank you.
BioWare should hire Psych.
Yes.
I stand by that statement.
I am for anything that puts me on the opposite side of Solus.
We all have feelings about the egghead.
I mean, I've got others if you want to later, but yeah.
We can scroll around for round two.
Yeah.
I can go next.
All right, we'll go Charlotte, then we'll go to Lizzie.
The one I came up with was a human Altus mage, where your origin is you're an Altus, you're in line to inherit your family's seat in the Magisterium, and through circumstances get caught up in people who want to take your family out of the Magisterium. Accusations get thrown around, assassination attempt happens, and you have to start going on the run, and that is how you kind of fall into the plot of the game, because it's like, oh, I've left my kind of safe cushion space, and oh, everything is on fire.
Reminds me of freshman year of college.
My freshman year was COVID, so
I like that. I definitely hope we do see a lot more of the Magisterium in DAD and just its inner workings and meet more people than I'm a Teventer Magister. I'm evil.
yeah, I mean, I just want to see Dorian again.
Oh, we're gonna see him again. He's too fabulous not to be in the next game.
Yeah, I mean, in my world state, Dorian and Bull are together, so I'm just like, yes, go live your best life.
Okay, so I didn't really specify a race for this, but I feel like it would probably be either a city elf or a common human. You are an Antivan crow, sold to the crows at a young age by your parents. You have spent the last 15 years or so being trained to kill. After embarrassing your guildmaster, you have been sent alone to Minmathus on a suicide mission to assassinate a member of the Magisterium. While investigating your target, you get caught in the middle of an altercation between two unknown factions and are rescued by a former member of the Inquisition, who I would think would either be Charter or Scout Harding. And you end up falling in with the remnants of the Inquisition.
I really want to see Charter again. I would love that. That would be a really cool tie-in.
Yeah, that leaves us for Wes.
You guys all put way much more effort into yours than I put into mine. I was just kind of spitballing because I was actually talking to Golka about it. For me, just because we know so little about the next game coming out, I found it very hard because it seemed looking at other games, the backstory or the origins were very specific to the plot of each game. So just not knowing anything, I kind of just wung it and said, I'm going to try and do something somewhat new, but bring something back. So I went with something similar to how they did in Origins. It's going to be a class-specific origin, but it's also a new class, and it's a one that I'm bringing back. It's the Arcane Warrior or the Arcane Knight. So unfortunately, if you're a dwarf, sucks to suck. So what I was just thinking, it's the Inquisition, because in my canon playthrough, Inquisition is still a thing. So the Inquisition is trying to get more magically gifted warriors to help fight the Egghead.
The Egghead. That's like
It's
my favorite nickname for him.
Yes. He's the egg, and he can go die in a fire.
Oh, I love the Egghead.
That doesn't mean we don't still want to punch him in his stupid face.
Some of us like romanced him and also want to punch him, so there's that too. Austin, I also have thoughts from Lewis H and Cash, if you want me to read those.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kolka Shins, also known as Cash, says, I think it would be cool if you start off on Saharon, in the middle of all that chaos, and you have to escape the island to get to mainland Teventer. Different factions and roles may have different storylines on the island and plant the seeds of different perspectives in the conflict. I'd love to start off as a Tal Vashoth or a Teventer mage who becomes disgusted with all sides of the conflict. And Lewis H says, I'd really like to see something more of a mage origin from Teventer, maybe something where you're not circle bound or oppressed. Either that or some kind of fade creature origin, like a demon or spirit trying to pierce the veil.
Interesting that both of those center around Teventer.
Well, I think, with the assumption that the game is going to be in Teventer, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go, and then you can go last.
Sure.
So this is the one that I actually prepared, and then I do have another one that I just kind of spitballed. But so, you are a Cunari Cerebas. All your life, you've followed the Cun for the letter. You've been bound. You've tried to abstain from using magic unless you are told to. Until one day you meet a mage. This mage is from Orlais, and she severs your ties and frees you. You are now on the run from the Cun, who have now deemed you unfit to survive. You are saved by the Inquisition, and they employ you to help in whatever they're doing against Solus.
I like that idea. That would be a really cool way to bring someone who's actually from the Qunari culture in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, because that's like one of the main cultures besides, because with Inquisition, we got a lot more insight into how Tevinter worked by talking with Dorian. But we still barely know anything about how Cune works, because Iron Bull is not always the best at explaining things sometimes, because to him it's normal. And so he'll start saying things and everyone just looks at him like, dude, what are you talking about?
It's kind of like being Catholic around all your Protestant friends.
And I also think, we don't know how Iron Bull may be biased. Like, he was re-educated multiple times when most people are not. And he was on Saharon for over a decade, I think, when most people can't even barely make it a year. So we don't know if everything he said to us is also accurate either.
Also, how long had he been in Orlais, separated from all that after his re-education and being sent away from Saharon? He'd been in Orlais for a while, hadn't he?
Yeah, I think it's a few years, like 3 to 5 years, maybe.
You'll learn about that on our Iron Bull character deep dive.
Have we even scheduled that?
In 2025. I don't know if it's actually in there. That was just a guess. It might actually be in 2024.
No, I'm looking now because I'm curious. No, 2023.
Oh, so next year. Next year, line up for that Iron Bull deep dive. You want to go, or you want me to do my other idea?
Well, your other idea is stolen from my idea.
I have a very specific idea.
Okay, well, how about I share my idea and then you can share your second one? Okay, so I have several ideas, but I think my number one that I favor the most is that you are a city elf from Minrathous, or maybe even another city in Tevinter. I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me. But you're not a mage, and you were born as a slave, an elven slave in Tevinter, and either through the help of the Inquisition or through the help of whatever organization is the alternative to the Inquisition, since some people's Inquisitions can be disbanded, you are freed as a slave, and then you pledge your loyalty to either fighting Solus or siding with him, perhaps. I think it would also be interesting if there are half of the origins are origins that side with Solus, and then the other half are ones that don't side with Solus. I think that would be really interesting. So, is that similar to your other idea, Austin? Okay, fine. No. Good.
So the only thing that we share in common is that it is a recently freed slave. So this slave, you were inherited to an Altus who came up to be a magister. And this magister did not believe in slavery and liberated you. However, through circumstances, a blue wraith kills the recently magister. You now, as a liberated elf, are on a hunt to kill the blue wraith who killed the person who freed you.
So Fenris.
No! Dad! No!
We don't like it.
Hey, I love Fenris more than anyone.
Hey.
But he's on a murder spree right now. And so...
Well, can't you blame him?
No.
No,
but I think it would be interesting.
Always the most... we know from experience, Fenris isn't always the most discerning about who he should stab. It was kind of like Hawk's entire job, which is like, okay, Fenris, stab that way. No, we like this person. Stop trying to kill him.
He just needs sarcastic love.
Don't kill my sister, Fenris. He would never harm Bethany.
I think other than Hawk, she's the one mage that Fenris respects.
Oh, 100%. He's even said that.
I mean, I would also I would also pay like a whole lot of money to have Fenris meet Dorian.
So much.
Those two personalities are not gonna mix, and it's gonna be hilarious.
I do want that, but I also don't want that because I am not 100% sure that Dorian would be walking out alive.
Depends on what
Bull
world state
game.
you're in.
All right, Austin, are we ready to go to the break and then come back and share our second and potential third ideas?
Yeah, let's do it.
Enchantment? Enchantment!
You need me.
Ugh.
I am yours as always.
All right. Welcome to the middle of the show where we talk about all things that have to do with podcasts, but not the lore of Dragon Age. It's this time that we like to thank our patrons, like our patrons we have here. Thank you so much for your support. We greatly appreciate it. We like to read out our first ever patrons that are on there. They get the privilege of being read out on every episode of the show. And so that is Lisa M, Genesis, and Derek B. We also like to give a special thank you to our Nug King patron, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, but that is Lewis H. He gets a special thank you at the mid-break and the end of the show. And we would love to welcome our newest patron, Charlotte, who joined recently. And welcome, and we're so glad you're here.
Yay.
All right. If you want to join us on Patreon, you can find us you can join there and find it in the episode description. You can join at various tiers. You can get anything from early and ad-free episodes all the way up to coming on the show with us once a month and having a lot of fun with us. Another way to support us is to leave us ratings or reviews on Spotify or Apple. If you leave us a 5-star review with some words, we will read it out on a future episode of the show. You can do that on Apple. Unfortunately, on Spotify, you can only rate. But if you email us at dalorecast.com with some words, we'll read that out on the show as well. And we do have a new review to read today.
So this review is from Damien C. And he says, "Hey guys, I gave you a 5-star review on Spotify and felt the need to give some words regarding the quality podcast you've created. You have got me so much more invested in the lore of this immense universe. I am now scouring the codex in my playthroughs because of you guys. You deliver the information in such a digestible manner. I found myself binging episodes to get to know more. You're an invaluable asset for this franchise and the community." Thank you so much, Damien.
Yes, thank you so much. All right, we also have a hero, hawk, or herald to share, which you can share those with us via the Discord or email or Twitter or any other way you can engage with us there. And so we do have a hero to share with us. And Shelby, will you read that?
I will. So this is a hero of Ferelden from Wicked Salvation, and they just joined our Discord recently. So if you want to share your hero, hawk, or herald, definitely hop over to the Discord. So this is Sarada Idukin. She's a female warrior. After the battle with her brother Balin, Sarada sought help in the form of the Grey Warden Duncan, only to be betrayed by Loghain and Ostagar. After her rescue, she went on to gather allies for the Blight. She headed for the Brazilian forest, making a stop in Lothering and acquiring Liliana, a rose amongst them all, and Sten. After arriving to the forest, she found the Dalish and heard of their plight. She did barter peace between the werewolves and the elves. Next, she made her way to Redcliffe, but not before meeting a strange merchant on the road, and hearing of this golem, went to investigate. After a small ordeal with a demon cat, she walked away a happy woman, and a man walked away with a pure child. Unfortunately, Connor would not be so lucky, and he would also not have a mom. With time being of the essence, Sarada chose not to go to the tower and let Isolde sacrifice herself. After hearing of the Arl's sickness, Sarada rushed to the tower to gather information before going to Dinnerum to find Brother Genitivi. She found the tower in pure chaos, but chose to save the mages inside. When it was all over, the first enchanter walked out to greet his Templar counterpart. Wynne joined her as she prepared to leave. On her way to Dinnerum, she's assaulted by a band of assassins. After a swift defeat, she took the life of the last remaining would-be assassin. After all, no one attacks an Idukan and lives to tell the tale. After Denerim was a bust, she followed the clues to Haven, and one slaughter later, with no cultists or dragon, no one was left. The real test was the gauntlet, the blasted stone. But she made it to the urn and took only enough to heal the Arl. After her swift return to Redcliffe, there was one place left she needed to go. Home. She marched back into Orzammar and crowned Harrowmont with the crown made from Caridin. She took sick pleasure in ending her brother's life. Before the lands meet, she wanted to do something special. With Alistair in tow, they returned to Ostagar and burned the bodies of Duncan and King Kaelin. Now it was time for the lands meet, and her forces were ready. Alistair, Liliana, Slasher the Mabari, and her confronted Loghain and ended his mad grab for power and his life. His daughter Enora proved to be a capable enough leader, and so she was left on the throne. During the final fight with the Darkspawn Horde, a wave of many forces, dwarves and those of the Legion of the Dead, joined the humans and elves on the surface. And at the top of Fort Draken, Serida struck the killing blow, ending the blight and fulfilling the dark bargain Morrigan and Alistair performed the night before.
That was just a roller coaster.
I am sad that Zevran died, but thank you for sharing your hero with us.
Yes, thank you. And you too can share your Hero Hawk or Herald with us. Other than that, I would like to encourage you to join our Discord, The Cups Podcasting and More. It's where we all hang out and talk about Dragon Age, Assassin's Creed, Star Wars, Mass Effect, all kinds of video games. We share pictures of our dogs, cats, pets of all variety. You can hang out with us there. You'll find that link in the episode description. It's a great place to hang out. If you love video game podcasting and you're looking for more video game podcasts, you can join the Robots Radio Discord, where you can find a plethora of other podcasts there to hang out with and chat with. And if there's a video game, a nerdy thing, that there is probably a podcast about it on the Robots Radio. And if there's not, you can make one by joining the Rocket Club. All right, that's all we got. So let's get back to it.
Well, that was Orlesian.
Dareth Shira.
You fear barbarians will swoop down upon you.
Yes, swooping is bad.
So I think Syke said he had other potential origins. If you want to go first again.
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to. So I mean, several of them, we all tend to think along the same line. So I'd come up with a Kunari origin that started off on Saharon and stuff. The idea behind all these different origins was to give us aspects of Dragon Age we hadn't seen, specifically like of Teventer, or like this one. I came up with a Navaran origin. This would have been the non-mage human origin. You are a Pentagast. While at a banquet in King Marcus's presence, an agent of Fen'Harel tries to assassinate the king, and you prevent it. The king tasks you with stopping the chaos, putting you on the path to the overarching plot. I use that phrase a lot in all of these simply because we don't know what the plot is. We don't know who's going to be the major force against Fen'Harel. So I was just like, it doesn't really matter who I'm working for. It's just who's going to oppose it. I came up with a slave elf origin. You work for a magister family in a prominent slave position. This would have been a non-mage option. So non-mage elf option. Other slaves have been seen gathering in groups and talking quietly. You get invited to a meeting with an agent of Fen'Harel to assassinate the family you are enslaved to. Your betrayal of the plan leads to you joining the overarching plot. And then, I came up with a magister option as well. But yeah, that was kind of it.
How closely are we related to Cassandra?
I hadn't really thought that much. I figured if you, the player, if you had the opportunity to play a Pentagast, then that would give you, that's a nice little Easter egg or whatever for you, the player, to enjoy.
This is just a thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they'll actually do this because of how much flack they got for Dragon Age 2. What if there is no option and we play as Kieran for D&D?
Oh,
That could be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I would prefer to see Kieran as a companion more than anything. I'd like to see him as a mage companion specifically, but a companion nonetheless.
But I mean,
rather than-
also, you have to think about he might not exist either. It depends on what decisions you made.
There's that.
I just thought they'd be interesting because like Morrigan does this idea because Plymouth tells her to, but then originally she just wants it for herself. For those who don't remember, Kieran is the child of Morrigan and whoever does the dark ritual.
He's probably going to tie into all this somehow, considering Flemeth was Mythal. And then all that mess happened, and now Fen'Harel's running around with the piece of Mythal. That's kind of a mess that Morrigan and Kieran might get pulled into.
But also, he can exist if you, as the warden, sacrificed yourself. She can have a normal human child who is still Kieran. Or if, like, you have her, if you romance and then you have, like, one of the other warden options sacrifice themselves. So he can exist as just a regular human kid. And it's really fun to actually watch the differences between his character.
No, he's just a spooky child in my current world state. So he keeps sneaking up on me and I keep hearing him and I'm like, dude, why do you keep appearing out of nowhere?
Because he got it from his mother.
Between him and Cole, they're going to give me a heart attack.
Our boy's lovable, but he's not great at announcing his presence.
No.
That'll serve him well if he ends up going into the sneaky, stabbity, kill profession.
Well, you said you had a human mage option?
Yes. So it could actually potentially be an elven mage option as well. But what if we are a member of the Lucerni or part of Dorian's faction of mages in the Magisterium? So we could maybe be an Altus, maybe not a first child of a prominent family in the Magisterium, maybe a second or third mage child who no one thought anything of. But you join the Lucerni, or maybe you're a Soparati mage, or whichever the lower end of the spectrum is. If you were like maybe an elf who was discovered to have magic and were like one of 3 elves in all of Adventure who are actually free. And you become a member of the Lucerni, and because you work for the Lucerni, you kind of know a little bit about what's going on. You know Dorian's history with the Inquisition. Maybe won't know everything about Solus, but you end up getting caught up in this whole thing by accident, just by affiliation.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So we can continue talking about DAD origins, but I do have an interesting kind of thought experiment because I misunderstood this question and prepared something else, which is I thought we were supposed to make a new origin for Dragon Age Origin.
Classic. Okay.
But so I did make one and I want to share it because I think it's interesting. I thought Dragon Age Origin, you are a soldier in an political envoy from Selene to Caelin. You are attacked either by Hal's mercenaries or mercenaries that Loghain hired, and everyone in your party, including the noble, are killed. You're saved by Duncan, and you join the Grey Wardens. I thought it would be interesting, like, for Origins to have an Orlesian counterpart there.
Yeah.
That would make Awakening even more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been definitely interesting, especially once you were introduced to Loghain. I have a hard time believing Loghain wouldn't have tried to cut your character down within about 6 seconds of meeting him.
He doesn't go completely nuts until later in the game, though, so he probably would have held off.
Yeah, but he always has hated Orlesians. Yeah. Always. More than anything else. So I don't know if he can
that's
control
his
it.
driving factor to betray his king, is the king was talking to Orlais.
Is he going to attack someone, though, right in front of the king? Because you don't have to actually talk to or see Loghain until you're at that meeting right before the Battle of Ostagar. So he doesn't even necessarily know who you are, other than, he knows that Duncan had a recruit, and he does make comments about your race, but I don't think he really talks about your origin unless you're a Kuzland or maybe a Circle Mage.
You do not... you don't see Loghain until you become a warden.
Unless you go to his tent and insist on talking to him.
Yeah, but you gotta have high enough charisma. Once you are under the protection of the Grey Wardens, Loghain can't do anything to you. you basically have diplomatic immunity in there until he basically outlaws the wardens again. But
Warden being Orlesian would have had so much more political implications in the Landsmeet. You probably would have had a harder time arranging whoever you wanted on the throne, because all those Freldons probably are going to be a lot less inclined to listen to you. You probably need a higher charisma to get them to agree with you.
right. Or you like the ability to be Alistair's consort is not available to you.
Oh yeah, no.
That is interesting.
But that's because I didn't understand the assignment. So
It's okay. I do have a few more ideas if you want me to share mine.
it's up to you.
So I think it would be really interesting to play as a dwarf from Cal Sharrock, who is like, no, we are the true we're the true dwarven society. I think that would be interesting. I think it would be really interesting to play as a imperial chantry person, preferably like a male priest, because we haven't ever had that perspective before. It'd be cool to play as like a Lord of Fortune who apprenticed under Isabella, or even playing as like an actual spirit, not necessarily a spirit who's fused with a body, like an actual spirit floating around that disagrees with Solus.
I really hope we get to have the option to be a dwarf from Cal Sharrock for Dragon Age DreadWolf. That's going to be such a different perspective on dwarven culture.
Yeah, or at least go there and see what it's like, or have a companion from there that we can get information on. I am dying to know more.
And romance, because we need a dwarf romance.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Another option when you're considering dwarves would be a dwarf who's gained abilities from a titan, like the dwarves we met in. I'm forgetting the name of the DLC now.
Descent.
Yeah, in the Descent DLC, like the dwarves, because that surprises people, because they're like, dwarves can't do magic. That's not how that works.
Yeah, that would be super interesting. And they can bring Volta back from that DLC because she can't die, I don't think, in the story. So
no, it's just Ren who dies out of the Legion of the Dead.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really interesting, like bringing up all the origins have all of these various factions that are in play right now. And Dragon Age BioWare has recently said that they are viewing DreadWolf as an entry point to the series. So they're viewing DreadWolf as a place where people could hop on board the series. And I just want to know, like, how are they going to do that? How big is this game going to be?
Ginormous, hopefully.
Or on the other hand, how small is the game going to be? Because I feel like, because they've said that, I feel like they can't make, like, it's not going to be a mid-sized game. It's going to be either pretty contained, similar to DA2, or it's going to be pretty large.
Well, it makes me a little bit worried because the last large-scale game BioWare made was Andromeda, and that is a huge game that is incredibly empty.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you can even say the same thing about Inquisition.
That's true. But at least like when you go to these populated centers, like when you go to Val Royeaux or you go to even the Crossroads, like you feel like there are people there.
Yeah, even when you go to the wrecked places, it's like people lived here before. They don't anymore, but they did.
I'm more concerned about how they want it to be a game where new people can pick up for the first time, but it's also a sequel in the fourth game in the franchise.
Yeah, that part I'm even more concerned about, because it's not like they're like mutually exclusive, but they do exist kind of in separate spheres, at least for the most part. There can be a little overlap, but
it's a very, very small overlap on the Venn diagram where that would actually work.
Yeah, especially considering the main villain is Solus, who you need a lot of context for Solus to even make sense.
Right.
Unless you're playing as a Dalish elf, like that is locked in. That is who you are in this game. Or someone who was raised by Dalish parents. Maybe you're not Dalish anymore, but you would have to be someone who knows the history of the Elven. So maybe we're a low-ranking member of the Inquisition, but I don't want to be limited with that. I want the option of having come from one of these so amazing backgrounds that they keep teasing us with in the concept art.
Well, yeah, and the developers have said, like, in all of their Twitter interactions, when people are asking about customization or anything, they are kind of pointing to a more diverse option creation.
This is why I think it would be interesting to have different origins who like support Solus and some who don't, because you do, to be honest, to the last game and also to bring new people in, you have to give a compelling reason for new people to care about Solus, but you also have to, satisfy the older fans. So to be able to like have some origins that are like, okay, you were a slave and Solus freed you, so you're on his side, or okay, you're a former member of the Inquisition, or you're, I don't even know, anything else. You're a member of the Lord of Fortune and you only care about yourself. So you're not with Solus, and having those two different sides, I think that makes more sense. And not necessarily that you couldn't switch sides at your own will later in the game, but like that's where the origin goes. I think that makes a lot of sense from the storytelling perspective.
Right. And like if they want to make it an entry point, because my biggest example is Assassin's Creed, which is a like 12, 13 game main title game series. It has 2 entry points. Well, I guess really 3. I would say it has 3 entry points. You can entry with Assassin's Creed 1 and play them all through. I think you can skip 1 and start with Ezio Trilogy and you're fine. And you can intro at Origins. And if you look at all of those games, none of them are heavily reliant on any type of antagonist or characters that cross over. And like Assassin's Creed Origin is a great example of a game that both appeals to new players and has satisfactory pieces for long-term fans of the series. It makes me think that Solus might play a role in Dragon Age Absolution, and that's kind of their way of making people care about Solus, is having this animated series that also has him in it. But that's how many people watch an animated series other than like nerdy. How many people who are not involved in a series start with a TV show? I mean, I did that with The Witcher, but
I did it with The Witcher too.
I almost wonder if we're going to start off in an origin that has absolutely nothing to do with Solus or the Inquisition or anything that's happened in the past, but kind of like in Skyrim when it opens it up and you have the option to go with the Empire, with the Imperials, or with the Nord rebels or whatever at the beginning. What if that's what happens? We have absolutely no connection whatsoever, but we end up falling into, kind of like I said in my Antivan Crow thing, we end up falling into an altercation between agents of Fenharel and former agents of the Inquisition, and we get in the middle of it and suddenly we're involved.
I think that makes a lot of sense too.
I mean, it is also kind of a strength of the series. A lot of the origins that we had before, they didn't know anything else that was going on. They ended up here by accident. Mm-hmm. Like, for most of the origins, the only reason you end up in Origin, you end up being part of the Grey Wardens, because through various things, that's the only option you got. Your
That's
life just,
true.
in like, within the span of 24 hours, went completely sideways.
That's a good point. And I think that with the Origins, in a lot of ways, if you want to introduce new players and capture them in the world, you have to present it in a way where they have dialogue options that basically info dump on them, but it feels natural that their character would ask. For example, in a lot of the origins, when you go somewhere, you have the option, oh, you said this, what is this? But like there are times when, and even across the other games in Inquisition, if you have the right perks or you have the right background, you have an option where your character explains the thing to the player. So like there's an example, I think you're talking with Solus or someone and they say something about elven history. If you're a Dalish elf, your like special elf option is to basically explain what that is. I think they have, if they're going to keep a voiced protagonist and if they're going to engage these new players, there has to be that option of info dumping without breaking your immersion in the world.
I hope they do a little bit better about that this time, because getting elf-splained by Morgan is so annoying.
Though, and also being a Dalish elf and talking to Solus, basically with him destroying your entire belief system. One of the reasons I'm angry at him, because Solus only acknowledges that his past world's the only one that matters. So he's like an old man who's always talking about how everything should be like the good old days and refuses to acknowledge the fact that times have changed. But yeah, it's like, no, he starts explaining all this stuff to you and you're just like, hey, our people were genocided. We don't got a lot of options.
Yep. I was going to say also, like, I know I've said this a lot, but I am just not convinced that Solus is going to be the only or even the main big bad of this game. Like, I definitely think it could be a red herring, like the name, all of the promotional materials about Solus. Personally, I think there could be something huge that comes back to Thetis, whether it's a double blight, Titan, something else, who knows? And then we all have to unite to kind of fight it. Like, I don't know. I think that's a possibility. I said that. I know I've said that multiple times, but I stand by it.
I mean, it's not like they didn't just do that to us.
I mean, true. I mean, it's not like they haven't done that in every game.
Yeah.
It's going to be someone other than the apostate mage out of your companions this time. So we're going to be looking for
it. It's going to be the freaking dwarf romance.
Yes.
Here
They're
it
going to
is.
give it that to us, and then they're going to walk away and betray us, and we're going to cry into Varric's manly chest hair.
There it is. It's the long con. This entire thing has been a story Varric has been concocting as he's been torturing you the entire time.
Oh, God.
He still has Cassandra locked in Hawk's mansion in Kirkwall. He's just been spinning a yarn this entire time.
What if, this is another one that I like the idea of an origin that doesn't have a lot of military, like, or militaristic combat training. And you have to, like, you start with a debuff and you have to build your way up. Can you tell that I love negative stats in D&D? But
Yes.
No, not at all.
But what if you're like a student of what's his name, the professor from Jaws of Hacken?
Kenrick.
Yeah.
He's in
What
love
if
with
you're like
Harding, and it's adorable.
You're his student and you've been researching like the Evanuris and the Forgotten Ones and all this elven history, and you get you like basically stumble upon a conspiracy and you get roped into all of this. But you can like barely wield a dagger.
Yeah, no, I would just want us to get to a point where the person looks at you, where one of your companions, someone you come across, looks at you and goes, "How are you still alive?" And you're just like, "I don't know. I have no idea how I'm still alive. I just keep running and I keep living."
Looks at the necromancer in the party and is just like, "Am I still alive? Yes, I am. Okay."
I want an option to start as like Dark Souls style, where you start with armor, no weapons, you got a club. That's your starting equipment.
Yeah. I want to enjoy playing the game.
Suffering is enjoyment.
We're not all masochists, okay?
Leave me alone.
As someone who's only played Elden Ring and Sekiro, you know.
I mean, if you're a student, just take a textbook, start beating Darkspawn with it. I don't know.
Listen, those textbooks are heavy, and that's a very valuable weapon.
Oh,
and
yeah,
true.
And they're expensive. You can sell them, and there's your starting gold.
No, their buyback value is awful.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Not unless you pawn them off on first years.
To kind of come back to a point earlier, I would hope that what we get is something that's pretty structured, because like what we saw with Andromeda, it didn't know what it wanted to be, and so it ended up kind of meandering its way into society. That's kind of what it does. So like I do hope to have like, these are your bad guys and you are joining this group. Like there's like another game I can think of where you are constantly being like enticed to join one side or the other was X-Men Destiny, this terrible PlayStation 3 game. And so you're constantly being courted to join either the X-Men or the Brotherhood throughout the whole game, and you don't make a choice until like the very end. That doesn't mesh very well. Like you're constantly just being like, I've defeated this bad guy, cool, because this is what I needed to do, not necessarily because it made sense as a character to do any of it. So anyway, that's I guess my point is I hope we get something structured.
I agree. And I guess for me, like comparing it to Andromeda is not really an accurate comparison, because like with Andromeda, after Mass Effect 3, there's no Shepard, there's no Reapers, there's no story to continue. However, with this, there's a lot of story left to continue, from Inquisition to DreadWolf. So I guess I get that, and I definitely do agree with you that it needs to be structured. I just I think that they have learned a lot of lessons from Andromeda and Anthem, personally. Hopefully.
Hope so.
Maybe I'm being optimistic. But from the way they talk about things, even just like whether it's in articles, but even more especially like when developers are just talking to each other on Twitter and talking about the game, it very much doesn't seem like the same situation, in my opinion.
So I guess one thing that would help them keep newcomers from becoming confused is, we know Solus is not someone who handles his problems in a hands-on way most of the time. And I could definitely see where a big chunk of the game, there's just a bunch of stuff that's going wrong, and you don't think, and people who come into the game with the knowing what's going on, no, Solus is probably behind it, just don't know how. And and near the end of the game, it's revealed this is how Solus has been causing so many problems, and he's actually a lot closer to his goal than we thought he was.
And I mean, we've also got all these other issues, like the Qunari have reinvigorated their invasion of the rest of Thetis. They are going hard at Tevinter at this point. It's not just a Cold War with flashpoints on Saharon anymore. So we don't really know for sure where we're going to start. We don't know what's going to happen at the beginning. There's too many options for us to be able to really speculate until they give us more, and they need to give us more.
I think it's coming soon.
It's driving me bonkers, and I wasn't sane to begin with.
We have been saying that it's coming soon since the trailer came out.
I mean, I know that's fair, but like we actually have like a legitimate date that Absolution is coming. Like we know it's December of this year. IMDb says December 9th. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's what IMDb says. So we know that's coming. The Game Awards are coming up in December as well. I think we're getting more information very soon.
If the Dragon Age Keep website suddenly shuts down for maintenance, then we're going to know that something is about to happen, because it just suddenly showed up right before Inquisition came out, and we had the whole Last Court game show up to pacify us until the game actually came out. And then we got to watch our tapestry and everything. When that happens, when we see that update on the tapestry, that's when we know it's go time. Get those PTO days lined up.
Especially because one thing that we saw a lot in the images in the trailers is there's red lyrium everywhere. And one thing that came up is like, mostly is so red lyrium with Corypheus, but we know for sure we killed Corypheus very thoroughly. We've killed him like 3 times, and we're very thorough that last time, making sure he stayed down. But it's also like, because with the Architect and with Corypheus, we now have confirmation the original Magisters who broke into the Black City and the Golden City, they're out there. And so it's like, could the reason it's still spreading being because Solus has manipulated one of the others who's still around? Because they're probably not as powerful as Corypheus or the Architect is, considering what we know about that story, and kind of like the Architect and Corypheus were the ones like at the top, and then they got the other guys down there. But it's also like, that may also be a problem, because it's like the red lyrium is the issue, and they show that statue in the trailer over and over, and you're just like, feel like that's important and a problem.
Yeah, that's fair too.
You just made me think of something. So we all know that in Awakening, you have different options with dealing with the Architect, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we also know with Corypheus that he's able to use the bodies of Grey Wardens to keep his ugly butt alive. What if the Architect knows how to do the same thing? So we might be seeing him in DreadWolf after all.
Right. The only thing that would make me pause about that is that the reason Corypheus can do that is because he's tied to his fake archdemon or whatever.
But we know that the Architect was doing experiments on Grey Wardens throughout all of Awakening. That's what happened to all of the Orlesian Wardens who were at the Keep,
right,
in Amaranthine. So we don't know what the Architect figured out for sure.
Right. Yeah, it's all very, very, very interesting. Well, we are out of time, unfortunately, and I know we could talk about this forever, but we're out of time, and so we're gonna have to wrap it up. We'll just go around, and if each of you just want to say like where people want to reach out, where they can find you, anything you got going on that you want to plug, we'll just go with that. We'll start with Psych.
Right. All right, cool. So I am one of 2 hosts for the MCU Lorecast show about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We take a movie each episode, we talk about it, and I talk about the comic book origins part of it. I introduce the history and both real world and comic book. And I do that with my partner on that is Captain Chenko. And then I am also a player on the Mass Effect Blue Shift live play tabletop RPG. I play character Jack Parizo, a CSEC officer on the Citadel, and that's a lot of fun. We drop episodes for that every first Friday of the month, and that's it. You can find me on the Discord. That's Stack88.
I'm trying, like I said, you can find me as Spiderweb on Discord. It's still kind of up and running, but I'm currently working on taking a look at Dragon Age lore through the perspective of an anthropology student, and also with the lens of what does ancient elven lore mean if Solus is being completely honest with us.
And I am LVCC13 on Discord and on Twitch, and I stream Assassin's Creed usually on Thursdays, Dragon Age on Fridays, Mass Effect on Saturdays, and on Sundays I stream Kingdom Hearts.
All right. Well, thank you all for being here. If you want more content from me and Shelby, you can catch us on the Assassin's Creed Lorecast or the Inheritance Cycle Page by Page podcast. Both those podcasts are available Apple, Spotify, anywhere you find your podcast. And a special shout out to our Nug King patron, Lewis H., who gets a special shout out at the end of every episode. Thank you so much for your support. And thank you for listening to the Dragon Age Lorecast. We will see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Dragon Age Lorecast. As always, you can find us on Twitter at DA Lorecast. If you have any lore questions, topics to unpack, or side character suggestions, email them to us at dalorecast@gmail.com. The Dragon Age Lorecast is a part of the Robots Radio Rocket Club. You can join the Robots Radio Network Discord by clicking the link in our episode description. If you enjoyed our show, we'd love it if you'd subscribe and give us a review. See you next time.
I'm your host, Maverick Stone.
It's me, Gingerino42.
I'm Romer.
Hey, this is Sassy Lady.
And I'm Jaxus. And we are the Fallout Roundtable. Join us as we explore various topics from the Fallout universe brought from multiple perspectives. We can be found on your favorite podcatchers from Spotify to iTunes. Or follow us on Twitter at FalloutRTB or our email falloutrtb@gmail.com. Be sure to rate, follow, and subscribe. Thank you.